All right. So alien invasion. Here's the paragraphs we just talked about. Okay. So let's figure out how to fill in this table. When she landed, there was one of her, right? 1 hour after she landed, there were two aliens. Boom, right? 2 hours after she landed, how many aliens were there? 4. 3 hours after? 8. So what's happening again? In words, like English words? It's not what I'm looking for. They're doubling, right? It's doubling every time. Because she's dividing in half, which doubles how many aliens there are. So after 4 hours, how many? 16. After 5 hours? 32. And then 64 after 6 hours, right? Okay. So next it wants us to write the number of aliens in exponential form. What? How did you say they were changing as we went down the table? They're doubling. So how could we, do you think we might be able to use that fact that they're doubling when we're trying to write it in exponential form? What would that do? What would that be? You think it would be x squared? So 1 squared or 0 squared, okay. 3 squared is 8? It's 9. Okay, so it's not x squared. Remember, even when we talked about exponential form, x squared is not exponential form. That's a quadratic, right? Exponential form means our variable has to be in the exponent, okay? So what does this tell us then? The fact that it doubles every time, that's telling us the base, right? Absolutely, the base. So this one's pretty simple to see, right? 2 to the first power. You okay with that? Then what's this one? 2 to the second power, or 2 squared? What about this one? Oh, 2 to the third. Now it's kind of fitting, right? So this one would be 2 to the fourth, 2 to the fifth, and 2 to the sixth. So which one did I skip? The first one, right? 2 to the nothing. How else could we say that mathematically? 2 to the 0 power, right? Now, some people are like, that's 0. Well, you know, and we've already had that discussion several times now, right? But in case you're having trouble with that, having trouble remembering, look what's happening as I go this way on the table. It's decreasing by 1 every time, right? Look how that's related to the time since landing. Huh. Look at that. So following that pattern, shouldn't this be 2 to the 0? Another way to think about it. Okay? Now, what do you think this one might be? 2 to the n. Absolutely. Good job. Now, remember in our discussion I told you that alien made herself into a sign, and she was 18 by 24 units. Okay? So where did they get this? Multiply them together. 18 times 24 is 432. That's how you find area of a sign, isn't it? Or of a rectangle. Okay? Except if she divided into half, what should happen to her area? Shouldn't it also divide in half? So what's the area of one alien? Even though there's 2, I just want to know the area of one alien. 216. Now, even though I've divided into 4 at 2 hours, what's the area of one alien? 108. And then what? 54. Does everybody understand what we're doing here? Since they're doubling in size, since they're doubling in numbers, these are going by half, aren't they? Okay, so what's next? 27. And then what? 13.5. 6.75. Now, some of you could do some of those in your head. The rest of you used calculators. Okay, you still knew the math that was going on behind it, didn't you? Good. Any questions so far? Okay. I like our first directions. Complete the table. Okay, done. Now use it to answer the following questions. After how many hours would the alien population be 512? I want you to know that when we were home for snow days, a couple days ago, I read an article that made me really sad. And it was an article about how to be a better math teacher. Does that seem like an article that would make me sad? No, right? Because I don't care about being a better teacher than Ms. Metcalf, because I won't ever be. I'm not trying to be a better teacher than Ms. Patton or Ms. Matos, because I won't ever be. I want to be a better teacher than I was yesterday, or the day before, or the day before. You see what I'm saying? So I'm reading an article that says how to be a better math teacher. That might help, right? And what it did was talk about how you're a good math teacher by looking at a whole bunch of bad examples. And what story after story after story I read was kids in a math class that got the right answer and showed all their work and still got the problem counted wrong because they didn't do it the exact way their teacher told them to do it. Ugh. If it's mathematically correct, why should it matter? Do you guys notice that I try to teach you different ways to do stuff? Because maybe one way works better for you than it does for somebody else. Okay? So I don't ever want to be that teacher. Okay? So for the record, when we did this problem earlier, problem number 1, they came up with at least 3 ways to do this. There's not just one way to do this. There was at least 3 that we talked about earlier. So can you get the answer? I'm going to give you a couple minutes to get an answer. Work on it. Talk to a person next to you. It's kind of the reason the desks are where they are today. Anybody have an answer yet? You got it? What'd you get? 9 hours. Oh, that makes me so happy that you said 9 hours and not just 9. Why? Why does that make me happy? Yeah, because you answered the question, right? 9 doesn't answer the question. It says how many hours. Oh, 9 hours. Okay? Now I need you to explain to me how you found your answer. Okay, you plugged the function into the graph and then what'd you do? Looked at your table. What were you looking for your table? Where? Where were you looking for 512? Where in the table though? In your X, so you arrowed down all the way to 512? Done 512 times? Okay, where were you looking for 512? In your Y's, right? Because if you think about it, the way the table's set up, if this is my X's, aren't these my Y's? Okay, now this is some extra stuff, whatever, but when we're first talking about it, this is our X and this is our Y's. Okay, so that's a perfectly fine way to do the problem, isn't it? Putting the equation in that we found 2 to the X power and looking on the table for a Y value of 512. Did someone else do it a different way? You guessed? Isn't that a perfectly fine way? So what'd you guess first? You just went straight to 2 to the 9th power and it was a perfect guess? So you went to 5 to the 7th power first and that was too low, so you went a little higher? Is that a perfectly fine way? Yes. Is it the best and quickest way? No, but you got the right answer. And if you can explain it to me, is that acceptable? Yes. Any other ways? Somebody earlier put it in their calculator and then went and looked on the graph. Like used the trace feature. Looked for 512 that way. Is that okay? Yes. Are there other ways to do this problem? Yes. However you did it, I want you to explain it. Do we explain in sentence fragments? No. We explain in sentences, right? So write me a sentence. I'm not going to write anything right here. Okay, I'm going to be a bad model, a bad role model right here because I'm not going to write anything. But I don't want you to think if I write something, that's the only way it can be done. Okay, so figure out how to say it in your own words, how you figured out your answer. You ready to go on? Almost, okay. How large will the alien population be after 12 hours? Any ideas? 4,096? That is a super good guess. Oh, it wasn't a guess? How'd you do it? What do you mean? Oh, 2 to the 12th. Oh, okay, so you use the equation and just put 12 in for time, for hours, which will be the x value, right? 2 to the 12th is 4,096. Good. What about 24 hours? Oh, okay. So 2 to the 24th, 16,777, no, 16,777,216. Now, guys, people have been confused about this today because they expected this one to be double of this one. Why would it be? Well, because I think 24 hours for 12 hours to 24 hours is double, right? Because that's what's happening here? No. Okay, so are you okay with this? So what's wrong with these answers? There's not real answers, they're just numbers, so answer them. Aliens? And? Aliens. Oh, it does sound better if you say it like that, Doug, you're right. Aliens. Okay, is that better? Okay. All right. Is the alien population growing at a constant rate? Okay, well, here's the good news. Yes or no, one of those is the correct answer. Okay, that's the good news. So we just have to figure out which one is correct. Is it growing at a constant rate? How about if we look back at our table? What makes something growing at a constant rate? What does it look like?
X. Like 2x.
Is this growing at a constant rate right here?
Yes.
Okay. Is this growing at a constant rate right here? No. What do you mean by constant rate? What's another word that we talked about when we talked about constant rate?
If it were a constant rate, it'd be a straight line.
Oh, so we would be talking about its slope, right? So slope was the change in y's divided in the change of x's, right? Divided by the change in x's. So the change of y here was 1. The change of x here was 1. So 1 over 1 is 1. So our slope should be 1 if it's a constant rate, right? 16 minus 8. 8 divided by 1 is not 1, is it? So is it growing at a constant rate? No. Except there's something happening here because every single term, what's happening? It's multiplying by 2. It's doubling, right? So something is happening. So, but let's answer this question first. Is it growing at a constant rate? No. Explain your answer. No, it's not growing at a constant rate, but what's happening? It's what? Multiplying by 2 each time. You're trying to use a vocabulary word we don't know yet. We're not comfortable with yet. Okay? So let's just use words that we know and we're comfortable with. You okay with that? All right, on the graph grid, plot the number of aliens with respect to time. Remember, when it tells us words, it's telling us y with respect to x. So let's make sure that's what it means. Y in our table is number of aliens. Is that on the y-axis right here? In our table, the x value was time. Is that what's on the x-axis right here? Yes, okay. So after 0 hours, there was 1 alien. After 1 hour, there was 2 aliens. After 2 hours, there was, were 4 aliens. 3 hours, there were 8 aliens. 4 hours, there were 16 aliens. 5 was 32 aliens. And 6, there was 64 aliens. Does that look linear? No. So that's even like a stronger reason for our problem on number 3, right? Is it constant rate? No. Now we can see that it's not growing at a constant rate, right? Okay. Does everybody have this plotted? Should the points on the graph be connected with a smooth curve? If not, why should they remain unconnected, and then provide at least one reason to explain your answer? Should they be connected with a smooth curve? Why do we connect something? What's the word that allows us to connect something? There was 2 words we went back and forth from. One started with the continuous. One was continuous. One was discrete, right? Which one did we connect? Continuous. Which one did we not connect? Discrete. So we're trying to figure out if this is continuous data or discrete data by deciding should we connect them or not. You think yes, we should connect them. Okay? So at 0.75 hours, how many aliens were there? There was still only 1 alien. Because when did she split into parts? Exactly at an hour. And for that whole next hour, how many aliens were there? Just the 2, right? And then at 2 hours, what happened? Boom. So can we connect these dots? No. And why not? Why can we not connect them? Why is it discrete? They only divide every hour. Excellent. I don't know why I dotted my O. I'm sorry about that. Provide at least one reason to explain your answer. We kind of did that when we were trying to decide if it was continuous or discrete, right? How did we decide that it was discrete? At 0.75 hours, there was still, what? Only 1 alien. Excuse me, 1 alien. Is that better? Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. On the graph grid, plot the size of the aliens with respect to time. Well, if that's true, the size of the aliens should be what variable? Y, because it's y with respect to x. So what's time going to be? X, right? Now, did that play out correctly on the graph? Is the time along the x-axis and the size of the aliens along the y-axis? Okay? You're going to graph that. And you're going to answer questions 7 through 11 for homework. Are there any questions? Okay, ask questions if you need to until the bell rings. And then I'm here for a little while after school if you have any questions then. Okay? Peace.